Hey everyone, thank you for joining us. I think everybody's here now. We've got a good turnout. Thank you. We're here to talk about the two different models of MSPs selling telecom services, and that's the known as the agent model and the white label model. And we're going to be talking about the differences between the two models. My name is Mark Loveys. I'm the CEO of Datagate Telecom Billing, and with me is Brent Reeves, co-founder and CRO of CereTax. Brent, good to see you again. We bump into each other quite a lot in the various trade shows. Perhaps you could give your introduction to yourself and CereTax. And
Yeah, sure thing. Hey, thanks, Mark. First of all, thanks, Mark, for putting this together. Really appreciate the opportunity today to speak on this topic. It seems to be one that comes up quite often within the circles that we run in. But yeah, so I'm Brent Reeves, as Mark mentioned, co-founder CRO of CereTax. CereTax is a tax calculation engine that embeds into Datagate to help you understand all the taxes, fees, and surcharges that you need to collect when you do start selling telecom services throughout your marketplace. Not only just telecom services, but also hardware, software, professional services, all of those things. Anything that kind of creates a tax liability for you, we're here to kind of automate that process for you. We have a long legacy of communications, marketplace knowledge, and have been dealing with everyone from the local one state MSP all the way up to folks in the tier one carrier space. So again, really excited about supporting you here and talking about this subject.
Excellent, thank you, Brent. I mean, it's great to work with you. Great to have you here. A lot of people say to us at Datagate, "Hey, how do you guys manage all these taxes? There's so many jurisdictions, and you make it all so automatic and easy." Well, it's actually because we deal with very clever people like yourself and CereTax, and we have all that plugged into our system. And so, really, what we do is really enable this great opportunity for MSPs. So, as a background, MSPs are getting more and more popular all the time. It's a business model that's thrived throughout all the bad things that the world's gone through, like the COVID. If anything, everything that's been happening has just made businesses move more to the MSP market. I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago in Sydney, Australia, and ConnectWise there were saying that they believe there's 400,000 MSPs in the world. So it's a huge number. And it seems to be getting larger all the time. So more and more businesses are finding that they prefer to outsource their IT to the MSP, managed service providers, and really the MSP is taking over a lot of the responsibilities that used to be the IT department in a business. And the IT department always looked after phones and communications, data circuits, all that sort of thing. So really, the MSP who's looking after IT services and computer support really has also got this great telecom opportunity there as well. So we're seeing that all over the place. And from the MSP's point of view, we see that there's a lot of things that they're expected to supply now to their customers, a lot of opportunities, in the cloud, from technical support, network support, disaster recovery, cybersecurity, consulting, advisory, and of course, the telecom side of things. And I guess when we're talking to MSPs, there are some MSPs that really grasp this telecom opportunity and they're making really good money out of it, and others tend to shy away from it. And I guess some of the discussion today may help to clarify that, or even open up some new lines of inquiry for them. So, when an MSP decides that they do want to provide telecom services, they've really got a couple of different models. If they want to outsource the actual providing of that, they can go the full outsource, which is what we refer to as the agent model, which is when they basically get somebody else to provide the telecom services, to take care of the tax and compliance side of things, take care of the service delivery, even bill the service out, and pay them a commission. So really that makes it very easy, but it also means sort of lower margin and less sort of control and brand impact for their customer. So the customer gets, really understands that they're getting their telecom services from somebody else, not the MSP. By comparison, the white label model is where the MSP uses a product like Datagate, with a tax service like CereTax behind Datagate, to take full control over the customer relationship, do the billing themselves, do it all under their brand, the MSP's brand, and really, I guess, to do that requires having a few more systems in place for the MSP, and that's really what Brent and I and our companies are really all about, is to provide that, make it really easy, but enable the MSP to make a lot more money out of it.
Just go back to what you were talking about earlier. The numbers that you were sharing with me after that conference were staggering. We see obviously a lot of MSPs. We're at trade shows where there are a lot of MSPs kind of exploring both of these models, not sure what to do, not sure how to remove those barriers. I think, but even still, like even the growth that we've seen in the MSP market was still far less than what I was expecting when you gave us those, when you shared those numbers with us. So it's a pretty staggering amount, but it does just kind of show also the number of companies that are out there that are going to need some way to differentiate themselves, right? They're going to need a way to create that stickiness between them and their customer. And obviously, the more services you can provide, and the more services you can provide on your own label, right, on your own invoice, it just creates that, there's just one more barrier to entry, one more barrier to competition. It just, kind of increases that moat that they can put around their business, which is, like you said, what we're here to try to help them do. Because, like you said, I mean, it does create, some operational needs that you've got to meet, but at the same time, those operational needs are, minimal when you compare it to the increase in the valuation of their businesses, just by creating that recurring revenue, but also, just like I said, the stickiness of their customer.
Absolutely. And I think what we're seeing is the telecom industry itself is recognizing now that MSPs are really winning the way with the business side of the market.
Absolutely. Like what we were talking about, at the AT&T conference, just a few weeks ago. It's so obviously the carriers are seeing it. Everybody kind of understands, hey, this is the future of distribution of these products. And there's been a lot of discussion around, well, do the streaming services, do the meeting services kind of take away from that? And from our perspective, what we're seeing anyway is it's actually growing it, right? Because they're partnering those services, whether it's Teams or what have you. They're partnering those with their other products to kind of expand their footprint within their same customer base.
Exactly. And in fact, if anything, when you look at all the statistics, do some Google searches, you can see the actual telecom market is growing. In fact, the UCaaS, Unified Communications as a Service, VoIP market, etc. It's typically growing at like 15% CAGR, compound annualized growth rate. It's a great environment. I think MSPs are definitely winning in this space, and you're absolutely right. You mentioned AT&T. You and I have obviously caught up at functions along with guys like Jeff Zimmerman from the Apex program of AT&T, who's very, very keen to talk with MSPs and partner with them, along with CereTax and Datagate to sell services directly. So it's a world of opportunity there, and in fact, when you look at, you put it all together, the agent versus the white label model. I mean, with white label, you get to front the whole thing, make your business way more relevant to your end customer, make the customer more sticky. I mean, the more services you provide your customer, the more difficult it is for them to move to somebody else.
And especially when you have people in the marketplace that are there to help you, right, that are like wanting you to succeed, right? Like if you talk to, like you mentioned, Jeff, AT&T will do anything, like they'll bend over backwards, right, to help you succeed in this. So it's kind of like don't go it alone. Obviously, just kind of lean on those resources in order to try to see if it's something that you want to do and can be successful at. But if it is something that you want to do, there's plenty of people out there who are willing to kind of help you overcome whatever hurdles seem like they're insurmountable.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I mean, so there's so many reasons that the white label model, you can have the right systems and people with you. You can make a lot of money. You can make your business a lot more successful and customers more sticky, etc. In fact, in terms of the margins, there is a lot more money to be made in white label. The margins are a lot higher than they are in the agent model. It's always difficult to quote exact numbers because different providers, different deals, different levels that you might choose to sell the product at.
Right.
But there's no doubt about it. There's, if you want to front it yourself, you've got more control, and you can make a lot more money from that.
Right.
Yeah. The other thing I think that comes into this, and Brent, I'll be interested in your comments on this too, that when it comes to selling your business, the business valuation is tied very much to the recurring revenue. And so if you have a think about it, if you're in the white label model, you're selling the full gross value of the telecom services, whereas if you're in the agent model, you're only getting a commission that is a percentage of that revenue. So therefore, your business valuation is a lot lower. And I think the other thing I'd say with business valuation is how important it is to get your taxes right, and using a good solution like the CereTax tax engine combined with Datagate to make sure you're doing it all correctly. I mean, Brent, do you see do you get involved sometimes, or you see the industry get involved sometimes with when companies are being acquired?
We do, yeah. We do. Typically, when we say we're involved, we're not typically obviously involved in the buy sell side of it, but we get involved a lot of times when there is like potentially a business valuation going on, or like someone's trying to anticipate tax liabilities and things like that, unfiltered or unfunded liabilities that may exist. So we do see things kind of like that, but just coming from a SaaS background, personally, obviously, being co-founder of CereTax, as well as other ventures, prior to this, yeah, I mean, the valuation is not even, it's not like they're not even close. Like agent, commissions are almost valued at zero because they're looked at that as well. That's really like personal. That's personal relational, right? So as soon as you stop being that person who's getting the commission, as soon as you stop being that kind of point person, there's the commissions are going to stop. At least that's what someone thinks about when they're coming in and looking at acquiring your business. So commissions are almost valued at nothing. At the highest, it may be like a 1x or something like that. Whereas when you do own that customer because they're being billed on your paper, your invoice, then those you're usually looked at as a multiple, right? So it's a multiple of that revenue. At the very least, it's a multiple of the EBITDA, right? It could be traded potentially on the revenue, but at the very least, it's going to be traded on a multiple of the EBITDA. So yeah, so and not only that, but it also makes a potential acquirer who's coming in go, okay, they're buying from the business, they're not buying from John, right? They're not because John could be in favor of AT&T today, or one of the other carriers, and then tomorrow they're not out hustling, or what have you. So yeah, you're kind of just shifting the value not only to the cash flow, but also to the business itself. So yeah, we see that, and obviously we've as a like I said, as a SaaS ourselves, we're constantly told about valuation metrics. So all of those things really come into play, which is to me, if I was on the other side of this, there would be no question that I would be pursuing the white label model versus an agent model.
Absolutely, those are some very powerful points there, really, because really that so often when talking to the owners of MSP businesses, what they're looking to do is build up their retirement fund, and that's often the business value. So,
right.
so very, very
Or
important.
even like we've got customers that are legacy businesses, right? So these are businesses that
Mm.
are generational. They're trying to
Yes.
hand it down to their son or daughter, to take to the next step. They've worked decades creating a really really good business, and this is another way to strategically protect that when you are trying to pass it down to the next generation potentially.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
even if it's not just liquidation,
Yeah.
just trying to safeguard the business for long term. This
Yeah.
is another way to do it.
Indeed. Indeed. So getting when somebody decides to get into the reselling of telecom, the barriers typically, I mean, they're going to be competing with other telecom companies, with the big guys as well, and they're going to need to build, to produce a bill, an invoice that looks professional and gives the information that's required on a telecom bill. It's quite different from a normal MSP bill, but that's no problem. That's what we at Datagate do. We enable you to compete head on with any other big telecom player, because you can customize and provide your invoice format with all the standard sort of pricing plans like overage charges, international call rating, 1-800 calls, bundling things together. So all of that is all good, and of course there are tax implications in that as well, and so that's something that we work together with, and Brent will, he'd be he'll be very familiar with the idea that when you bundle things together, there's complexity, but if you have the right systems, you can deal with that. Yeah, I mean,
what's interesting when we get more and more exposure, right, and see more and more folks like entering the space, is just how competitive they can be, right? So, because again, like the carriers want you to be successful. I mean, you're a distribution model for them, so a lot of times, you know, they're on a better footing than even the big carriers when they walk into a business and try to sell them their UCaaS services or add to their UCaaS services. So, if all you've got to do is figure out how do I solve this from a billing perspective? I mean, all the pieces are there, right? So you guys can do the rating. I mean, you guys can pull a lot of their systems together, whether it's the MSP or professional services. You can get it all on an invoice, so that, so they know, exactly how to charge the customer, and how to
exactly.
price the customer, how to protect their margins, right? Because a lot of that's transparent, and they can dictate those prices, as opposed to like the agent model where like prices are set and you're just getting a set commission, so your margins are really never going up or down. They can control those. And then on top of that too, I mean, us with you, it's kind of one big piece, right? So we can help them go, okay, yes, you need to register. There are certain things you have to do from a taxation standpoint, from a representation on a bill. But since we're already integrated, like all those things can kind of take care of themselves, right? We can join with them, arm in arm, both you and I, and then the MSP together, and say, okay, well, yes, you have to do these things, but we can walk you through step by step. Here's how we do them, and here's what they have to do. So you don't have to become an expert, right? So like if an MSP gets intimidated by that thing, that part of it, I think it's critical for them to know that it's been done, right? It's been tried and true. We hundreds of times before them. So it's like everything from the initial registration to understanding Nexus and what has to go on a bill. Between Datagate and us, we can get them through that process. So it's kind of like, I think, like I said earlier, don't let like things that seem like they're intimidating or burdensome, stop you from increasing evaluation of your business, 2-3x potentially, or even more, quite frankly, by not offering these services. So
exactly. And I think the thing we have in common, Brent, is we're making it easy for the MSPs. I mean, the CereTax, you do all the research, you get the taxes right. Datagate, we integrate with other products that MSPs use, like the PSA systems, like ConnectWise, like Halo PSA, like Autotask, like QuickBooks, like Xero, you name it. So the systems talk to each other. So that's not going to create any problems. In fact, we even make Datagate able to work as a sort of a client of ConnectWise from the point of view, or Halo PSA or Autotask, so that you can just set up your contracts or your agreements inside those PSA systems, and it just flows through. We plug into the telecom environments. We can plug into virtually any wholesale environment, telecom environment. And with CereTax, you've got all the different types of taxes are handled. Doesn't matter if you're selling a piece of hardware or if it's a telephone service or whatever, in whatever jurisdiction, whatever state, county, city you may be operating in. It's all taken care of. So that's our job to make it easy and make it happen for you. Yeah.
Yep.
So automation is a big thing. More and more MSPs are telling us hyper automation is the new buzzword. Just make everything automatic, please. Okay.
Right.
People don't want to do a lot of work.
Just do it. Right. That's good. Just do it.
That's right. So that's something that's very popular now with our MSP clients. Just set a date and a time, or time of the month or whatever, to just run all the billing, process it all through the tax engine, making it easy, making it seamless, get the data out of the PSA and accounting systems. And in fact, people often ask, well, will your telecom tax engine, will it handle other things that are not telecom? Absolutely. Yep.
Absolutely.
I think,
obviously we want to say we make it easy, right? And it can be. There's obviously a lot that goes into it, but for the MSP itself, I think that's what we want to kind of continue to reiterate, is that, like, don't try to burn yourself with trying to learn all of these things, because, like I said, it's been done for you. And everything from, just calculating what am I supposed to charge, all the way down to, okay, who am I supposed to pay and how do I pay that, right? So, we work with a number of partners and advisors also. So, it doesn't matter if you have a really small tax team or a really big tax team. We have a number of advisors within our ecosystem too. Marashland, for instance, Marashland and Donahue, and the ComLaw Group, and Tax Connects, and many others that are that we work with, on a day-to-day basis to basically just take kind of all the manual part of it off of you, both from just the knowledge base, but also the month end compliance. So between Datagate, CereTax, and then our ecosystem of partners, we can pretty much just take the kind of burden off of you there. But yeah, I mean, automation is key, is critical. And because we have the ability to kind of automate as much of that as possible, it does kind of just reduce that burden.
Excellent. And so the other thing is, I guess, the flexibility. There are regulations. I mean, the telecom is a regulated industry. Certain things that need to be shown on telecom invoices. There's even the ability to use surcharges to recover the cost of processing taxes. These are available to you. So you may think, well, it's costs money to have systems and people in place to process telecom invoicing. Well, there are surcharges you can put onto that. That's quite normal. There is I guess the flexibility in our system, so that you can sell anything pretty much, but you can make up your own pricing plans. I've seen MSPs do some very creative things over the years to win new business. You can.
Well, they're entrepreneurs at heart, right?
Absolutely.
Right, so,
that's right.
So yeah,
we had one customer that said, when they find a client that's maybe doing a lot of business with, say, another country, maybe they're doing a lot of business with Mexico or Brazil or whatever, they say, okay, we'll give you free calling to that location, but you can tune that in the pricing plan. You can make the pricing plan fit the characteristic of the business that you're looking to win. You win the telecom business. If you're an MSP, you can soon follow through with all the IT business as well. And there's a lot of scope. I know, Brent, with tuning, getting the taxes right and getting them optimized. And it's a big subject, and doing it efficiently. We've seen MSPs be able to get their very competitive while still being correct.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean that's a webinar on all its own, right there. Actually, is optimizing your products and services with flexibility within how you bundle your products and services, how you label your product services, how you pass on some of that cost to comply to your customers. So yeah, that's a webinar all on its own, is to
Yes.
understand that, okay, when I enter into this, it gives me a lot more options to be an entrepreneur, to be more creative, to win business. So I use certain things as loss leaders to earn other businesses, but yet still tax it appropriately, and so that you maintain compliance. But there's just a lot of things that you can do, that once you enter into the market, that gives you just some more opportunities.
Absolutely. So so really what we look to do is, I mean, the CereTax and Datagate, we work as an integrated part of the solution stack, I guess, that MSPs use. Alongside a lot of the PSA systems that you see here on the screen, including ConnectWise, Datto, Autotask, Halo, Kaseya. We synchronize with QuickBooks and Xero and other accounting systems. We have a lot of payment systems, quoting systems. I guess
that's a big pain. Yeah, glad you actually brought up some of these, because that's a big pain that we see a lot, is the quoting side. So the fact that you've got all of this under one umbrella is really helpful, because it can, like I said, it can serve someone from the beginning to end. So I didn't even know that you had some of these. So this is great for us to learn. But we see a lot of pain around the quoting side also. So like
absolutely. What we like to do when we're talking to MSPs is they'll say, but we're using this product and that product and this product, and we will say, well, okay, we've got those integrations, and so we can plug in and just extend what you're doing. We don't even need your staff to learn a lot of new things. If they're using a PSA system, we like to keep the workflow much the same, so they can add Telecom and slot straight in. So I must say, with we're talking about tax partners here, and we're always stressing at Datagate, we're trying to make it easy, and as we're talking in the previous conversation just now, there is always room to optimize. So when I sort of stress the easiness side of things, we often get tax partners in the background saying, hey, but there's a lot of scope to optimize and make our providers more competitive.
There are. And I'll just kind of quickly run through like what you can expect and kind of how we kind of address it, I guess, if you will, right? Because if you're an MSP, you've got some sales tax, obviously, obligations already, depending on how wide and deep your service market is. Those could be different things, but one thing is, like, communications taxes do not follow the same kind of nexus rules as sales tax. So with sales tax, there's like thresholds and economic thresholds. With communications tax, nexus is basically where the customer is, right? So if you have a customer in that particular locale, then you have nexus in that locale. So one of the things that we do initially is kind of look, okay, this is where you're providing services today. This is where you think you want to provide services. You want to expand your footprint. Let's just take a look and make sure that we all understand how that's going to impact your current line of business, right? Because there's a lot of strategies that you can put in place, and like I said, we work with our partners a lot in giving this kind of advice to folks, so that way they don't blindly create liabilities where there weren't any to pre-existing, and that you're only creating the liabilities that you want to create, basically, by providing those services. And then so once we've kind of done that, then we're obviously going to look at, okay, what is it that you're selling, and does it qualify as a communication service, right? So there's all kinds of communication services that aren't even taxable, but they still may create some sort of I won't call it liability, but more regulatory compliance that you need to know about, right? So, you may be selling a service that's not taxable, but it may still require a certain type of registration. So those are the things that we're looking at. And then obviously looking where the customers are, where your customers are, and determining how that overlaps with your existing business and what liabilities that may or may not create. And then understanding the communication service types, right? So are you voice, are you data, is it video, is it streaming, is it fiber, is it lit fiber, dark fiber, all those sorts of things. What is it that you're selling? And then again, how does that impact your overall positioning? And then again, working with our consultants to say, okay, well, let's see how we can package this up with what you're doing now to be a very effective offering, but still kind of minimize your tax obligations. And then lastly is you're setting those kind of rules, right? You're setting those thresholds that you want to look at going forward. So you kind of sit down, and that way you're educated as a business and go, okay, if this is what's going to cause this, right? I do this, then it causes this. Let's set those thresholds so we know kind of when we have to do certain things so that we stay compliant all along the way. But most of all, it's really just kind of looking at this as a holistic package and then saying, okay, we've done this work, we've done this legwork. Now I can go sell. Now I can go grow my business, and I don't have to worry about all this because Datagate's got my billing. CereTax has my calculations, and my consultants, CereTax, affiliated consultants can handle all of that. Kind of that pressure, right? That, hey, I don't have to wake up one day and check my thresholds. I don't have to wake up one day and determine, okay, do I need to be paying the, FCC directly? Do I need to be making USAC contributions, things like that? Because, once you've kind of done that legwork at the front end, which sounds like a lot, but it's really, again, it's not that intimidating. Then you're kind of free to grow your business. And reap the rewards of that little bit of effort that you did on the front side. So,
absolutely. So yeah, so really, as to wrap it up here, we at Datagate, we can provide the extra functionality that you need to augment whatever systems you're using now to get the information out of the telecom environments, the call detail records, etc. Build the pricing plans that you need for your invoice, and CereTax can handle all the tax, and in fact, CereTax is also a very high volume platform. I understand, Brent, that
Yep.
you can handle big throughput. So if you get very, very successful, you've got a system that'll keep up with
we
you.
still have a number of customers that just because of the type of business they're in that need to pass like CDR level data through the tax platform, and things like that can cause tremendously high volumes. So it's a completely cloud-based solution with real-time failover. Since launching the solution, we literally have 0 minutes of downtime. So we're real proud of that. So it is built with that, with the communication sector, quite frankly, in mind. So
awesome. Yeah. So all the latest technology. Fantastic. Well, look, thank you, Brent. It's always great to talk with you, and to everyone there, thank you for joining us today. We would now like to open the floor to any questions that you may have, and we'd be pleased to answer those. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Brent.
yeah, of course.
All right. Hey, Brent. I'm just going to be stepping in here for Mark for the Q&A portion. Great job, by the way. That was a fantastic presentation.
Thank you.
All right. I think we've got some questions coming in here. I guess, Brent, I'll just kind of go through them. I think the first one is maybe one for both of us, actually. How long does it take to implement Datagate and CereTax? I think on our end, it's typically about 4 to 6 weeks to get you up and running. A big part of that is just getting things set up, getting your product catalog configured, and giving you a lot of training, getting the invoice layout built out. That's always something that people get very particular about. The CereTax piece, and I guess there's another question, I think a little bit later down there about that as well. But Datagate and CereTax, you can actually get as a bundle. And so the setup of both products is done essentially at the same time. I think, Brent, from your point of view, I know things like tax mapping, setting up exemptions, that sort of thing, typically pretty quick, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we're definitely not the long pole in the tent, right? So, by the time you have them ready to go, we'll be ready to go. It's like I said, since the integration's already done, the only thing we have to do is map products and services to the right taxability codes and set up the any kind of overrides or bundles or things of that nature. But it runs seamless, together. So yeah, your time frame is our time frame.
Awesome. I see here there's another one. We're an MSP and have a few clients on VoIP, looking to add more VoIP clients. What are the costs to set up Datagate and CereTax monthly? Now, I guess I alluded to this earlier, but the great thing is you can actually get both Datagate and CereTax as a bundle. We've got through Datagate. And we've got an upfront implementation fee that typically is based on the number of CDR feeds that we're pulling and processing. Ballpark, I guess, it starts at around $2,000 and kind of goes up from there. And then on the monthly side, our minimum is, around $500 a month. But we can always, because we're typically working with MSPs that are new to the space with very little VoIP revenue, we try to be as flexible as possible with pricing, keep those upfront costs low. But, the combination of Datagate and CereTax is probably one of the most cost-effective ways of tackling this. Wouldn't you say, Brent?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, we're bundled into your service, so it doesn't require a separate contract for our services. So all of your pricing is included in the Datagate package.
Perfect. I've got another question from Frank. Do you do the actual tax remittal to local authorities and also registrations? Brent, you want to take that one?
Yeah, so we don't do them in-house. We do facilitate it though. So if you want that services, please contact us and we'll coordinate that for you. That's just more on the services end. I'm on the software end, but it can be done as one big package. So it's registrations, consultation, compliance filing, obviously the tax automation for the calculation, and then the Datagate package. So if you need the end-to-end service, please contact us and we'll do that. We can coordinate that. Just in full disclosure, we outsource the filing side to one of our partners. We feel, especially in the communications, it really takes kind of an expert team to do that. You really want kind of that white glove service to handle the the communications filing both at the federal and the state and local levels.
Exactly. Yeah. And I guess on our end, Datagate and CereTax, and because CereTax is calculating all those taxes, you guys have tons of reports built in. Datagate's got tons of reports built in as well. So everything kind of goes hand in hand. We provide the reports, and the partners come in and do the heavy lifting, I guess.
Yeah, right. So we can either facilitate someone doing it in-house, right? So with very, very detailed, comprehensive reports that tell them everywhere they owe money, who they owe it, how much they owe. So we can facilitate an in-house practice. But if you've expanded beyond, the point where it should be done in-house, where it's really burdensome and time-consuming, we can bring in that filing partner as well.
Perfect. I think I've got another one for you, Brent. What kind of audit trails are available to ensure tax calculations and reporting are accurate for our compliance/accounting team?
Yeah, that's huge. I'm glad you asked that question. So one of the main things we did after we built CereTax is just make sure every transaction is logged within the CereTax platform. So there is no mystery as to like what transaction came in, whether it's by line item, invoice level, location, product service. You can search all of that detail, and then you can see what taxes were applied at every level, federal, state, and local. When they were applied and why they were applied. So if you do ever get audited, there's an extremely clear path that you can download after that Datagate, but also out of our UI as well, in order to present that to an auditor. The other thing about it too, though, is if there are bundle configurations or if there are overrides, if there are things that you change from a taxability perspective. So maybe you have a traffic study or something like that. So you're not utilizing, say, a safe harbor rate or something like that. All of that is logged. So if you do get audited and they say, okay, why are you applying this, not necessarily it's like this rate, but why are you only applying to this percentage of the transaction? There's a very clear path that says, oh, well, because we have a traffic study that says that, our traffic is not, 64.9% interstate. It's actually only, 22.4% interstate. So all that kind of detail is logged within the CereTax platform for easy download for audit defense.
Awesome. I think that's probably a big thing that people probably don't think about it until it's too late, right? And then they're kind of scrambling. So it's good that you guys kind of have that built out right from the start.
Yeah, and having it like in a UI that you can pull down yourself. You can obviously submit a ticket to and say, well, I only need my data for the state of New York. All that sort of stuff you can filter on within the UI. But if to be completely honest with you, a lot of people don't even go to the UI for months, right? Because everything's becoming so automated. And then they go to the UI and go, I forgot how to do that. It's pretty user, intuitive, but sometimes they're like, can I just submit a ticket and say, hey, can you give me New York data? You can do that as well. So
support.
Another way we can support you.
That's awesome. I think I've got another one for you, Brent. I guess I could touch on this as well, but you probably got more info. Do I have to start collecting taxes right away? I've heard probably a million different answers to this question. I want to get your take on it.
Yes. Okay. So collecting, remitting, who's liable, all those sorts of things are that's really more of a consultation question that we'd like to probably take offline, because there's a lot of kind of like what ifs, right? So what I will definitely say is if you are providing communication service, you absolutely have to be registered with the USAC. You absolutely have to be registered in the states in which you're providing services. Now, that's just out of the box, right? You can't be providing services that you're not authorized to be provided. You have to raise your hand and say, hey, USAC, I'm here, I'm providing these services. Now, the way you comply with the collection and remittance, though, is where all the what ifs come in. So, am I paying my carrier? Am I claiming de minimis? Am I going to be a direct contributor to USAC? So a lot of those things are where the what ifs come in. But what I would, as opposed to saying, do I need to start collecting and paying taxes right away? What I would say is, do I need to be compliant right away? And that answer is yes. It's just the way you become compliant is basically dictated based on your business model, your footprint, your relationship with your carrier, what your contract says with your carrier. But first and foremost, it's getting registered everywhere to provide these services.
Yeah. And I guess to your earlier point, that's probably a better conversation for a tax and compliance partner. But we can definitely be the first stop in that conversation and get you connected with the right folks.
Right.
Does the system account for specific tax regulations for MSPs or telecom providers, such as FCC fees or other surcharges?
Yes. Okay. So MSPs themselves, if you're not providing telecom services, right, you don't have any specific tax regulations with USAC or FCC compliance. But yes, the system absolutely does. So when you become, again, a carrier of record, which is what you're doing when you become selling telecom services and you register, yes, the system accounts for all of those specific tax regulations. And again, that's part of the configuration, because it goes back to the previous question, which is, am I responsible to collect and pay those immediately? Again, so it's part of that positioning and configuration when you get set up. But yes, the system does account for all specific regulations for telecom providers, both at not just the federal level, obviously state, because there are some states that have telecom specific taxes or telecom specific fees, obviously 911s, things of that nature. Yes, we cover all of it.
Yeah. And then we get that data from CereTax and put it on an invoice, make it look nice and clear to the end customer as well. So there's no questions about, hey, where's this tax or what is this? We get a lot of good data, and then we can pass that through on the invoice.
Right.
I think the last two questions we've kind of already answered. Does Datagate file my returns as well? No, we don't, but we do provide you a lot of reports, and typically a lot of our clients will work with some sort of specialized tax partner that can kind of take care of that. We do see from time to time people try to do it in-house, and I guess if you're just in a single state or single county, maybe you can handle that. But very quickly, the amount of work grows exponentially as your business grows. So, working with a partner is probably the best thing to do here. Do I have to purchase?
Even if you can handle it in-house, usually we find it's not cost effective,
Right.
Because it takes a certain specialization, and that specialization is usually several $100s an hour worth of time. So if you're spending more than a few hours a month, it's usually just more cost effective to outsource it.
Right. Which you probably will be, even in a single state. You'd be spending, more than a few hours a month.
Sure. Depending on what state, absolutely.
Yeah. And the last question: do I have to purchase Datagate and CereTax separately? No, you do not. We do have a bundled offering, making it nice and easy for you, and nice and affordable as well. All right, I think that was all the questions there. If anybody does have any additional questions, we've got our contact info up there. Hopefully this was a helpful webinar for you all. And please don't hesitate to reach out if there's any follow-up questions. Brent, thank you again. That was a great presentation, and to Mark as well. I'm sure we'll put the recording out as well for those that couldn't attend, and just so you can get a recap. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Brent.